So the Han Solo movie didn't perform as well at the box office as Disney was hoping it would. In fact, after 2 weekends in theaters, it's safe to say Solo, a Star Wars story, will be remembered as the first box office failure in the franchise. Those are according to the words of the appropriately titled article, Solo is the first Star Wars box office failure. This article is on ScreenRant.com and is written by Chris Agar. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name. A link to this article will be in the description. Chris writes, since every Star Wars movie to this point was a clear hit, the expectation was that Solo would be one as well. Despite the infamous production difficulties and general sense of apathy surrounding the project, early projections had Ron Howard's spin-off breaking the Memorial Day opening record en route to a worldwide debut of $300 million. Unfortunately, these estimates couldn't be further from the truth, and Solo is on the path to losing money. Disney got a little too big for their britches here. They thought if something had the word Star Wars in the title, then there was absolutely no way it could fail. Up until now, that was true. But 10 movies in, and we finally hit a dud. But how can this be? Isn't this the grand renaissance of Star Wars? Didn't Disney swoop in and save the franchise from the evil clutches of George Lucas? Well, turns out if you keep milking that cash cow, eventually you're gonna run dry. And this presumption of success isn't the first instance that Disney thought they were untouchable with the Star Wars brand. Last year, Disney tried to get a larger cut from ticket sales of movie theaters that were screening The Last Jedi. Since it was Star Wars, they were sure it would be a success, so they felt they could get a little more bang for their buck. Since they held all the cards, they could knock around the little guy and no one was going to fight back. But with Solo's release, things have now changed. There's no sugarcoating the fact that Solo's numbers aren't pretty. In 12 days of release, the film has earned just $155.9 million domestically and $271.3 million worldwide. At one point, it was supposed to gross $170 million stateside in its first 4 days. Solo will now have an uphill climb to reach $250 million for its US total and is expected to earn $400 million worldwide. The public and the casual movie-going audience didn't turn out to see Solo. Maybe they weren't interested in Han Solo's origin. Or maybe they just got tired of seeing Star Wars movies. 4 came out in the last 2.5 years, where during the George Lucas era, people had to wait 3 years between each film, so there was time to digest each one and build anticipation for the next. It really made each movie have its own weight to the storytelling. Each movie felt like a proper chapter out of a grand saga. With Disney dumping out a movie every year, Star Wars movies aren't events anymore. They're just movies. So when the casual market loses interest, Star Wars is no longer 100% guaranteed success. There are even YouTube videos of people going to stores and seeing merchandise from the Disney Star Wars movies that came out 1 or 2 years ago. The public just isn't hyped up on Star Wars anymore. Disney and Kathleen Kennedy somehow achieved the impossible. They've turned gold into lead. For the first time, Star Wars was just another summer film rather than one of the year's premier cinematic events. The lack of urgency for Solo is what sunk it commercially, and its shortcomings give Lucasfilm several valuable lessons to learn. The rest of the article goes over how Disney could bounce back from this failure, and I'm not saying they won't, but one of those main lessons they could learn is to not put all your eggs in one basket. Disney and Lucasfilm's only strategy so far has been to release as many Star Wars movies as possible, as quickly as possible. But Solo proved that it won't always work. Thanks to poor marketing and mishandled decision-making from executives, Star Wars doesn't have the impact that it did under George Lucas, even when there were no movies coming out. For 4 years, Disney has forsaken its core group of hardcore, loyal, expanded universe fans. There are people like me who would have spent hundreds of dollars on new content had Legends been continued. I haven't bought any new canon content, and I have barely bought anything Disney related in the last 4 years, outside of reprinted Legends books. And until Legends gets continued, that's all I'm going to buy. And I probably normally would have bought several Marvel comics and tickets to Marvel movies. Even with the new canon, even if it's not connected to Legends, I probably would have bought several comics and books, and would have definitely seen the movies, just to see what they'd be like. I guarantee you, I would have bought both the brand new and the reprinted Legends novels. But I'm only stuck with buying the reprinted novels. Some of you might say, oh, what's your money mean to Lucasfilm when they make a ton of money off the new movies? Well, if the movies follow the trend set by Solo, then they might want my money. The hundreds of dollars they lose from me by not continuing the EU, which, by the way, would also be profitable to them, given how many books appeared on the New York Times bestseller list, is worth a lot more than the $10 they lose from the casual movie-going fan not wanting to see Solo. And by the way, I would have totally gone to theaters to watch Solo if the EU was being continued. But since it's not, I just kept my money. And that's to say nothing about the EU fans who decide to boycott Disney entirely. People can say that Legends or Legends fans don't matter, but if you're a company that's losing money, why turn your back on the people who would otherwise be willing to give you hundreds or thousands of dollars for your material? I'm not saying that giving Legends fans what they want is the only way to be successful. I'm just saying there are more ways to make money than just movies. There are portions of the Star Wars fan base that are not interested in the new movies or the new canon. If that group of people gets bigger and bigger, then continuing to make new Legends content is a great way to win at least some of them back.